Shazam.
Okay.
Live.
We're up and running?
We are up and running. Should you do the intro first tonight, or just talk about bullshit first and do it in 5 minutes?
Do the intro right now.
Okay, I'm Pat.
I'm Jeffrey.
What is this, Jeff?
This is Coffee Before Bed. This is a podcast starring Patrick and Jeffrey, and sometimes some of the other strangers that manage to wander into our lives.
Strangers. I like how that. Yeah, I like how you put that. Yeah. I actually listed as like Jeff and Pat, two old friends, sometimes more, listed on there, and then I read that like 3 times. I was like, oh, that's stupid. We're not gay.
We'll fix it. Well, no. We clarified that like a couple of weeks ago with the episode of a pre-existing relationship of some sort. You clarified that
My wife was here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Not only are you not gay, but you've managed to produce offspring. I think my brother has at times spoken about his children. So
Yes.
and he's never made mentions of adopting them because, well, you can't make another man pregnant no matter how hard you try. So.
Oh my God. Okay. So speaking of gay, I actually saw this the other day.
Okay.
So one of our state representatives who represents us in Congress, I think you know which one I'm talking about.
The gay one?
No. We have a gay one?
Oh, I'm thinking of.
That's the governor.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the governor.
Yeah. No. One of our members of the House of Representatives who's decidedly not gay called out Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Booted.
Butt chug. Yes. Booty chug.
Okay.
Booty chug. Yeah.
Yeah, the other day for attempting to chest feed. So speaking of like having offspring and needing to adopt. I thought it was the dumbest joke that I ever heard. Yeah.
Wait, I don't understand.
So he's gay. He adopted 2 kids.
Okay, good for him.
Okay, and so during the supply chain crisis, which of course he has absolutely nothing to do with, even though he is the Secretary of Transportation, it's all the railroad's fault. I'm going to tell you that right now. And if they tell him, if Pete Buttigieg tells Union Pacific to do something, they'll tell him to go pound sand. So
he has no authority over them.
Huh? No, not even a little. So they'll be like, fine, we'll work less.
Okay, got it.
But anyway, so she was calling him out the other day, and then of course this is Lauren Boebert was calling him out the other day because he adopted 2 kids, and apparently he wasn't doing anything about the supply chain crisis. Okay, because he was quote unquote too busy trying to learn how to chest feed. All right, so him being a gay guy,
yeah,
right? Yeah, okay, so you get the joke, right?
Of course.
Is it even remotely funny? I just see that one as being like that's definitely someone who is trying too hard to be funny about something. Even the crowd kind of had like this audible groan, and she's like speaking to her choir.
Okay. Now, I will say that there is something funny to it.
Okay.
The manner of which you presented it kind of strips it in all of its humor. The question is...
She presented about how I did. But,
no. So what I'm saying here is a joke like that all depends on timing and context.
Okay.
Right? So if this were... If it was appropriate and if the context was good and her delivery was good, then it could be funny.
It could be.
When you just present it here at the facts and basically say, okay.
Okay, so do you think I'm giving it an unfair representation?
No, absolutely not. What you're doing here is you're presenting it as only you can. Because what I would challenge you to take a look at a courtroom transcript of Bill Burr's jokes and say, oh, well, this is funny.
Yeah, very few of them would be.
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing Bill Cosby has ever said has been funny. It's all in his delivery.
Right.
Right? So if she delivered it like a pro with impeccable timing, sure, that works.
Okay.
Right? But in the manner in which it's impressive, you have the evidence. I didn't laugh. I didn't even chuckle.
Well, and I guess that was kind of my point. Like, the way that the joke is actually set up as like a gay joke.
Right.
I mean, are any of those even funny anymore?
Oh, you can do a funny gay joke.
Can you?
You can.
I'm not saying that people would call you out for it. It's kind of like, it doesn't get the ruckus, like, kind of, belly laugh response that it used to get.
No, it doesn't. And to be fair, I don't think it can. Um, the problem with that is gay jokes are only effective. Okay. There's a couple things going against gay jokes right off the bat. Is the second that you crack one, half the people are going to automatically be like, "Oh, that's inappropriate." You know,
Still, even with gay jokes, still.
yeah, they are because
I mean, like, I get like trans jokes. That's one of those things that's kind of like a, I mean, that's absolutely a third rail.
it
But a
is.
gay joke, I mean, a gay joke has got to be pretty tame by now.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
Is there's still a so when you get to the point where half the people are going to groan just because it is a gay joke, no matter how funny it is, they're like,
Okay.
"Oh, that's inappropriate." The other thing that you don't have going for you is it's not in any way, shape, or form unexpected, or
No.
basically
It's no longer a novelty.
it's not a novelty. It's there. You just won't get anything out of it, right?
Right.
Right. The impact of making a gay joke just doesn't hit anymore. So
I guess that's my point. It seemed like it was a very 1980s kind of joke, told in a context that just, I don't know.
well, certainly. I mean,
It was a joke that was designed to punch in like 3 different directions at once.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Well, again, I'm not saying that there isn't a like time and place for this thing, right? Far from it. And I mean, I really don't, I don't have a problem with it. I don't have yeah, obviously I've never, really had a problem with, homosexuals in general, but I guess I still don't see a problem with joking about gay people in any other way that any other group should find it more offensive. There's an argument saying that because it is a marginalized group, when you do that, you normalize sort of, attacks against this. I don't necessarily prescribe to that,
I think
but
that argument's worth
you take
man.
it for what it's worth, man.
I think that one's probably spun its wheels out at this point in time.
I don't think anybody. Well, I mean, there are some people that care, but it's the same low percentage of people that would bully anybody for anything.
Yeah. I don't really see that as being, something that too many people would get like horribly offended by
Right.
anymore.
Right.
Just because, like, I mean, we've spent the last like 3 years getting offended about everything. So I think we're only a couple years away from people getting offended by nothing.
Well, you're fried. I mean, what are you
Right,
gonna do?
yeah.
You're fried. It is like anything else. You have your offense-ometer is still tied to a fuse in the box in your house, and there comes a point where you plug in too many Christmas lights, you will trip that thing, and it takes extra energy to turn that thing back on, to flip it.
That's
right?
a really good metaphor for that.
Because
Yeah.
I know I hit mine a few years ago. There was a time where, like, okay, I can see offense to that. All right, got it. Yeah, that's wrong. I can't tell you the specific incident, but something just bang. And then, like, oh my, it's 2 a.m. I gotta go upstairs. I gotta go fucking flip that thing, And there it is. You open up the box, and number 29 is hanging way left, and you're just like, I'm not going to turn this back on.
I'm not going to turn
I
it
can't.
back on. In fact,
can't.
I'm going to just unplug things.
It's
from now on.
fried. Yeah. I'm just going to spread out the outlets.
Yeah.
That was my fault. I had like a hair dryer and,
You daisy and chain like three power strips together.
yeah, and they're all plugged into swamp coolers. Every single one of them.
Swamp coolers and toasters. Yeah. No, I don't know, man. I mean, I've seen like a couple things. Like I said, I was catching up on a few podcasts the last couple days. There is still a fairly substantial outrage culture.
Sure.
But it's becoming more and more concentrated. They're all on each other's shows and shit now. So,
Right.
yeah.
That I do believe. I think we would call that a circle jerk.
It is a circle jerk. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, there's a gay joke.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. But I'm not doing it to
That's
be
a nice-
offensive. That was
yeah. No, that's an old school term, man.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So, yeah, I think the proper name for that now is echo chamber, but
No,
we all know the right one.
I don't have to sign up, but you know, that's the one on the front door that says "In this house."
Oh yeah,
We don't say
We don't-
echo
yeah,
chamber. We
don't
call it
say-
a circle
a
jerk.
circle jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
The famed circle jerk that nobody has ever seen, but has to have existed for it to be a term.
I know. I think it's purely mythical. Maybe it goes back to the Greeks or something. Who knows?
It
So
would. Yeah.
I have never heard tale of that actually happening in like a locker room or something.
No,
Yeah.
no, of course not.
No.
I've known gay people, and it's like
Yeah. No.
I'll ask them. It's
Yeah.
like, is this real?
Yeah. No.
It's like, why the fuck are you asking me this? This is actually offensive.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it?
I don't know.
I don't know. I like of all the gay people I've known. I mean they're like. I mean, there's like two of them in particular I remember that were bartenders at,
Oh,
at,
okay, yeah.
at the watering hole. And they worked together, and it was almost like having a married couple there.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
you know, kind of
Right.
thing.
There's a familiarity there that
And it felt completely natural, man. There was nothing about it that was fucking weird. So, you know, and and I'm like, this is as cool as people, easiest ones to like. I mean, and like one of them, his name was David. If you gave him any shit about being gay, he'd give it right back to you. You know, I mean, he had heard every gay joke ever on the face of the planet,
Sure.
and he'd usually tell one that was even worse than the one that you had just told him.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and you know, it was like he was almost impossible to offend, you know, kind of thing. And maybe that's because he grew up in a different age where it was actually really weird, you know.
The 80s.
So, yeah, no, because he was older than me.
Okay.
So, not much older, but he was.
Okay.
You know, he didn't grow up in Charlie's generation where he probably get his ass kicked every day. So,
Yeah, I wanna make it clear that to some of our younger listeners that, you know, we didn't have to live through that. Our you know, our any form of sexuality had not crossed our minds in that decade. But what I will say from some of the old timers there, ones that say like went to high school in the 80s.
70s.
Yeah, late 70s into the 80s.
That was different.
Well, you were not coming out of that closet,
Oh, no.
and they wouldn't let you.
No.
They said, get right back in there, right? You know, this is
Oh.
just not something that you would do, right?
But this is also the generation that settled everything with fistfights. So, yeah.
I believe, yeah, there was,
I mean, we saw the younger brothers try and do that,
yeah, that's true.
you know. But by that point in time, you actually did have a security guy at the school, maybe. It was usually just the biggest, fattest teacher, but yeah.
Yeah. It was, it's funny because, yeah, it would have been either like the shop teacher or it would have been,
It was the photography guy at the middle school.
that's what I was about to say.
Yeah. That big dude.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
doughy white boy.
Oh, yeah. But he could break a
He
fight.
could,
He'd broken
yeah.
up many.
He actually broke up a lot of
He'd
fights.
broken up many, yeah. They'd send for him. They'd be like, "Oh, there's a fight."
Yeah.
Okay,
I was
okay,
like, all right.
stay put. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. There was a lot of
Mr. K.
there was a in the '80s. There was a lot of you spilled my drink, buddy. That
Yeah, but you wouldn't fight with knives and stuff like that. And
Oh,
I mean, the idea of even remotely bringing a gun to school would be like, I mean, that would be blasphemous. So
knife fights did happen.
They did, but it was like always the same
Not
kids.
at school. Not at school.
Not at school, and it was always like, you know, the parking lot across the street, you know, afterwards. But even then, you know, I mean, you're talking about two guys with pig stickers. You know, you're not talking about, you know, these kids who show up with combat knives nowadays. So, well, and I guess it really goes to the gun thing. I mean, like, when you and I were in school, I mean, the idea of someone bringing a gun to school, oh, shit, that guy's busted. You know, what is going on? It wasn't like, oh, he's going to shoot everybody in the school. So it was all like, oh, he's slinging something, you know, or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At school was just a place of business.
It was a place of business, yeah.
Yeah. Well, but this is part of something that's really changed about school violence. So ask anybody now. I mean, you know, my brother can go rounds about how far they've gone in terms of avoiding things that could potentially lead to fistfights, how hard they go about this is a no bullying environment, about how inclusion is like the number one motto of this school. So whereas that's kind of gone down, I would say, in terms of, just Orwellian control over it. I'm not saying this is a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying there will be no bullying when you're in a police state. But
Is the school really a police state, though?
well, compared to the lawlessness of when we went, yes.
I don't know, man. I mean,
You have to understand,
so like it just depends. So it's going to be completely dependent upon what kind of school you're going to, where you're going to school, and things like that. I mean, there were bad schools in the town when we were growing up that had
Sure.
cops. So they had SROs and things like that in them. And just because, like, you can find examples of that within a district doesn't mean the entire district's run like a police state.
Well, what I'm going to here's the thing is I can guarantee you there's no public school right now that doesn't have security cameras.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
They installed them in my junior or senior year of high school, and that was a hubbub, right? That was kind of a big deal.
That's right. We didn't have
You
those.
didn't have them when
we
you
didn't have them
went,
when I
but
went.
they installed them the year that we were there. Like I said, either my junior or senior year. Now it's ubiquitous, and I'm not just saying that because it was the biggest high school in town, right? Mm-hmm. Even little districts have cameras.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's Columbine, though, man. So,
Columbine hadn't happened, but
well, what was it? It was 99? It was pretty close.
I graduated in '98. So.
No, I get that, but so we've got a gang problem in some of the large schools, so we're going to put cameras in that school. But that doesn't mean we put them out there in Ellicott in 1999. We do that after Columbine.
Oh yeah, so
That's my point.
okay. No. So if you're going to make that example, so these things are popping up already, but that incident definitely accelerated. Where it's like people are, well, I was thinking about getting this. Like, actually, you know what? Put the washer and dryer on hold. We're going to buy this right now.
I guarantee there wasn't a school board in the country that didn't go back to its voters for more money after that and said, hey, we need to upgrade all our security. So
I wouldn't doubt that. But that being said, so that is something that distinctly changes things because, just the presence of cameras definitely changes the environment completely. And, they've also changed the attitude of the place. So when somebody comes in there with the intention, with a loaded weapon and is going to discharge it, right? They're not there to handle the problems like it would have been. Like if you're going to go in there and get in a fight, right? The consequences of this, right?
sure, yeah.
The two of you are going to get beaten up. It's going to get broken
suspended.
up.
Somebody's
People
going
are
to get suspended,
right?
Somebody might go to juvie. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas with a lot of school shootings and stuff, number one, I think most of them don't plan on getting out of this alive.
No, I don't think so either anymore.
Right? This is
what was the guy down in Florida that they actually prevented him from killing himself?
oh
That was a couple years
yeah,
ago.
yeah.
Where that dude tackled him.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of them aren't planning on getting out alive. The motives are completely different.
Right. Well, and okay, so that's not to say that, like, back then you didn't have kids who'd kind of gone off the rails like that, too. They just wouldn't make it that far in the school system,
No, they'd wash out at 16 or...
They wash out at 16 or, they were the ones who wound up in juvie, and things like that, because it was a little bit different. Discipline was definitely different back then.
Yeah.
You didn't have restorative justice and crap like that. But, it just got to a point in time, and so, like, the guy in my PhD program who was in charge of, discipline at the district there used to work at your school, right? And I asked him once, I was like, why don't we do that anymore? So he's like, I know you're a big supporter of that and things like that. He's like, there's no place to put him. He's like, there's really no place to put him. He's like, so, the way that the law is structured in most communities is like, okay, fine. So we take, this problem kid, we kick him out. Where does he go? Okay, well, he doesn't have parents at home. All right, and they're obligated to stick him into school. And so, since we're a public school district and we take public funds, we have to find a place for him. And so, for years, that was juvie. It was Zeb Pike and stuff like that. Yep. But that place turned into such a gang-infested rot house that they had to close it. So, and they were like, okay, so we had people who were actually getting in trouble in order to go there. So, because they can make more money in that place. So, and so, and eventually it gets to the point in time where, well, like, especially here where you have like, what, fucking 15 different school districts, which is insanity. But anyway, dude, it's like the Confederacy is trying to hold 9 states together that hate each other. So...
All they do is talk shit.
All they do is talk shit.
All they do is talk
all the time. And all they do is try and poach off white kids and GT programs from each other.
They absolutely do.
Yeah. Or now it's Asian kids, to tell you the truth. So.
Well,
absolutely.
It's a lot of people like to view that as just a special, differently spiced brand of white.
When they're the ones who support your music program, your math Olympiad, and actually bump all your Galileo scores or whatever the fuck the test is called nowadays. Yeah, no, the districts fight like crazy.
Of course they do.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't say that.
No,
of course
not. No. They just say, well, we have the best GT, we have the best college pathway program, so and then they just naturally show up.
And there's you and I know this. When it comes to education, there's 3 groups that you want to poach.
Yeah,
and that is
athletes.
Oh no! By ethnicity. By ethnicity.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, well, you want to grab Asians.
Yeah.
You want to grab anybody Hebrew that you can.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And generally speaking,
Hebrew an ethnicity?
Well, that's the thing. Is yes, but no.
Oh yeah, I've heard that. I've heard people say that I'm ethnically Jewish, so not religiously Jewish.
Right. So, but they don't catalog it that way. They just catalog it as Jewish or not. Right?
Okay.
But
really, does the school actually use Jewish Judaism or Hebrew? I've never seen that on a thing.
They don't.
Yeah.
However, independent metrics do track that.
Like what? Like what independent metrics?
Okay, so metrics, the metrics that they use in just like public school, and so this is what they're going to use to determine the achievement gap,
ability and stuff.
Well, the breakdowns, the cohorts, they break things down into when it comes to closing the achievement gap. So it's Black, Latino,
it's race.
Yes,
it's race. It's ethnicity.
Okay,
so
in those ones, they don't.
Parental status.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. In those ones, they don't. However, when they track those independently, so studies that aren't being used by the school's internal data, when groups study that outside of that, and then they further break it down and say...
Oh, okay. So the schools are just doing this on their own. They got a good kid who plays the clarinet and, is fucking math whiz. It just happens to be Jewish.
Right. So
okay, I see what you're saying. So you're saying researchers who used to do the bullshit that I used to do, look at it and say, oh, this kid's Jewish. So...
Well, they don't just look at the test score and say, well, he must be.
Well, no, but they use what was known as a propensity score where they could figure that out.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so that's when they break it down. They say, who are our top performers? It is Asians, whites, Jews.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So... Generally speaking,
I don't know how much they really divided along racial lines as much as they used to. Maybe for like a charter school where you're actually trying to
Bro, don't even tell me that. Man, okay, it can't have changed that much in 10 years.
I don't know, because like the choice system that we have here has kind of sorted itself out. So there's less and less choice, inter-neighborhood choice going on than there was back when you were a teacher. So...
Yeah, I'm not talking about the choice. I'm just talking about whether or not they actually measure that to...
Oh, they do measure it.
To basically say, here's the achievement gap.
Yeah, but I don't think that leads, like, a school like, like Mitchell to go out there and try and poach white kids.
Oh, no, they're not...
Yeah.
It's not the fucking, like...
You think to kidnap him from 6 blocks north?
Well, I was thinking about that. I was thinking, like, the Nick Saban of fucking, Mitchell comes and sits down with your prospects about... We'd like to talk to you
We'd
about.
like to talk to you about our football program. Yeah. So-
But more so, it's like, Mr. Takanawa, we'd like to talk to you about your.
Yeah, but I think like on the school level, like on the actual building level, your principal doesn't sit there and pour over that data. And
Probably.
yeah, no.
Probably
so
not.
maybe your district gurus or your equity officer or whatever they're called now. Maybe at the tip top who's like trying to get Title IV funding or something. Or what? No, it's not Title IV. What is it? Title II. So
Man, given how many layers of that administrative onion existed
it's terrible.
existed in District 11. Like, so when you talk about, all right, so here are the goons, here's the administration, and then you look at the back end of how many layers of
Tons.
right. So I'm sure somebody was in there looking at
Yeah.
the names, giving this, and then putting out a report and saying like, our Latin X students are not.
Oh, I saw a poll on that. Did you see that?
Yeah, evidently Latin X people don't like being called Latin X.
I've known that for a decade, man.
So I'm just glad it's starting to come.
I've known that for a decade. When you work with people who like,
Oh my god.
who cook like really good food and share it with everybody because it's just part of the culture, man. And you say, oh, well, are you Latino? I've never even heard someone say, oh, I'm Latino. They always, I'm Hispanic. Or they'll say, I'm Mexican.
Let's say I'm Mexican. If you
Yeah.
go back far enough in a certain range, you will see people that say they're Chicano. But that's rare,
like very
man.
specific.
That's a very specific age range.
I ran into
People-
one guy that I worked with once, and and so his last name was very, very Hispanic. Okay, so it was one of the top 5. Okay, kind of thing. All right, and I remember asking him like, "Where are you from, man? Where's your family from?" He's like, "Fuck you, I'm from here."
Okay, yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
"What?" And he's like, "I've been in this state my family's been in this state for 14 generations." He's like, "I'm not Hispanic. I'm not Latino. I'm Spanish."
Right.
And I was like, okay, man. So, I mean, he was kind of doing it as a joke kind of thing, but he wasn't joking,
Yeah.
So, he was just, I mean,
I
he
am
was just,
sick of being asked this question.
Well, no, it wasn't even that. He was just like, so I actually had, like, I guess, I don't know, the gumption just to ask him, kind of thing. And so, he used it as an opportunity to outlay his lineage specifically because it was different, kind of thing. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm easy, man. My family records don't go past the boat. So, and I don't even know which one. So, I was like, well, sorry, I'm second generation American. So, or I guess I'm third. My grandmother was actually born outside of the country. So that makes me third. My dad would have been first generation or second generation.
Yeah, I guess I count as second. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sort of. I mean, it just depends on that sort of.
Who cares?
Well, it doesn't matter
Yeah,
to
it
me.
doesn't matter.
I mean, I know that because of my lineage and the things that happen, I know that I have a very biased anti-communism view.
Why
but
are you anti-communist other than the fact that happened? Is there like what is it about communism itself that really gets under your skin?
Because it's never been able to divorce itself from totalitarianism.
Okay, all right, that's
And
what I kind of thought.
there is no form of government
Mm-hmm.
that has been responsible for even close to as many deaths and disappearances as quote-unquote communism.
Well, maybe the Mongols.
Maybe, but I doubt it.
We don't know.
I doubt it. And I'm only going to say that because there were, if you wiped out 25% of the people at a time, we're dealing with a much smaller denominator.
Yeah. But how much of that is due to like actual intent versus incompetence? So, because like Hitler actively killed 6 million Jews and
And
did
you're
so
gonna say,
competently.
are you going to say that Stalin did it accidentally?
I don't know. What about Mao? Do you think he did it accidentally? I think he just did it because he was stupid and his brain was rotted with syphilis at that time. What do you think?
There's a lot of reasons. That's all I can tell you is I can tell you who the person was. I can tell you who the person in charge was.
Sure.
And it's always on the person at the top rung to be able to say like, whoa. Okay, well, I didn't mean for this to happen. You got to put it into it. Nobody did that.
Yeah, no, I don't think you'd ever hear that. So, I don't know. I do wonder about that sometimes, though. So
There is no version of communism that's been implemented that has not resulted in the restrictions of freedoms and the increase of human suffering by
Right.
a wide amount.
Yeah, no, I agree. The only one that I disagree with is maybe like the era of the Soviets from about 1950 to about 1980. So,
Okay.
yeah, I think there's kind of an outlier there, though, that's a little bit different. So, because that's when Khrushchev came on board and he was like, hey, that last guy, yeah, he was a bad dude.
Totally
We're
understand.
going to not pretend any of that happened. We're going to actually try and make this place better. So, and they did, you know?
They did, but at the same time, the question is, were they afforded the same freedoms that the West had?
Oh, of course
No,
not.
absolutely not.
Yeah, no, that would take a top or a complete revision of the government at that point in time.
Right.
And I mean, it would probably have to be like a cultural change too, because like I mean, you've got students in Russia now. I mean, democracy is just not a thing there.
It's a concept.
Nobody believes in it though.
No,
yeah.
no. As a matter of fact, the way that it's been described to me is when they describe their tip-top leadership. I don't want to name names. You can, but they basically describe Putin as a gangster.
Yeah.
That's how they describe.
Yeah, but is life better or worse? See, I've heard from both. So let me disclose that up front.
Let me also disclose this
Yeah.
up front. I teach rich kids. They think it's sweet.
They think it's sweet. Yeah.
It's pretty fucking rad from where they're standing.
You get
However-
yeah.
However, what I will say is, if you're not in that group where you're paying my exorbitant costs for tutoring, then chances are you may not be in that, shall we say, income bracket that enjoys the same privileges of life.
Yeah.
I will. Okay, now just to turn on this, speaking of this came up last week. This is something I had a little bit of a blow up. Not really.
Twitter?
No, not on Twitter.
Oh.
No. That's stupid. I just like made snide comments. But no, this was actually with a student where and this was not a Russian student. This has to go with the CRT discussion we were having a little bit ago. And so
So what do you mean by blow up? Like you guys were just set the scene for me. You're on a conference call or?
well, it was in a lesson, right?
Okay, all right.
And so he was working on writing a paper about a book called Invisible Man.
Oh, I've read it.
Not the H.G. Wells version.
No.
This is the
Oh, that's right. You told me about that one.
the one by Ralph Ellison. And so I had to read this thing, and so I'd never read it before, but I jumped in, and he's talking to me. He's like, "Did you read the book?" I was like, "Sure did, unfortunately." And the thing was, he kind of paused. He's like, "You didn't like it?" Like, no, not really. No, not really. And I wasn't. The way I was trying to put this was, and I hated to break out the Nortons to prove this point, but I said, you just read a piece from Toni Morrison, right? We wrote on this, like, and now you're going directly into this, and I'm like, I'm not saying this is a bad book. I'd say it's a middling book, right? I'd say it's right down the center. It's sort of unclear what it wants to accomplish. There is some analysis of this that says, this is, what it's about. I'm like, yeah, I get that. I get this. None of the symbols in this are fucking obscure, right?
So it's a little on the nose.
I think so.
Yeah.
For like a casual reader, they'd be like, oh, okay. But I'm trained to look for this crap.
Yeah, I get it.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking for red flags.
You are a trained literary critic.
I am. So, all right. So, what is it that you're going to be? What is the topic that you're writing about here? Because I know what you wrote about in the past one. You're talking about themes here, the legacy of slavery and stuff like that. I'm like, is this a unit that you're working on in literature class? It's like, no. Like, so why these two books back to back? How much time has this taken of your semester in your American history or American literature class? It's like, well, it's between these two, it's been like a quarter. The thing that got to me was like,
Wait a minute. This is specifically a lit class.
yeah,
They're
this
only
is
reading 2 books in a quarter.
something like that. Well, I mean, these are some.
Obviously, they're not taking this very seriously. Then.
No, this is actually an honors class.
And they read 2 books in a quarter. That's crazy.
Well, they already wrote 2 essays about this one book, and they're working on a third.
Okay.
Now,
Is it just because kids don't read?
they read fine. Well, they read in class, right?
Oh,
You
okay.
can't trust kids to do the outside reading anymore. It doesn't work like that.
I-
But,
I do. So,
well, yeah, you teach college.
well, it's even easier to get away with not doing it there. So.
Well, I'm saying, like, but anyway, but it was so you've spent like nearly a quarter working on this, but this is not a unit. So why is it? Why is your teacher harping on continually coming back to slavery and the legacy of slavery in your American Lit class?
I think that's a question for the teacher. So how'd the student take that one?
He said, I didn't think about it.
Oh, okay.
He just said this was. He basically said something to the effect of, "This is just something we accept as a given."
Oh, yeah.
Right? Now, again, I'm not going to downplay it and say that it's not something that should be discussed. But fucking it, if you're spending a quarter of this basically relating to these for as far as I'm concerned, substandard books.
Sure,
Right?
yeah.
Compared to what you could choose in an American
You
Lit
could read
class.
Mark Twain. So
Just for the purpose of incorporating the legacy of slavery,
Yeah.
teaching that as American history. Like, am I wrong? Did we not accomplish anything else in this country? Am I fucking wrong here?
no, but that's the paradigm and has been for at least a generation.
That's fucking dog shit.
Well, fair enough, but when it comes down to it, I mean, what you learn in history class in high school doesn't amount to a fucking high.
Look, I'm not going to debate you on that.
Yeah. So I mean, so like I don't care. They could teach them that the fucking Russians landed on the moon first. I want to
But,
give
oh
a shit.
yeah,
So I mean, it just means you get to be pleasantly surprised about how awesome your country is later when you actually find out the truth.
I guess I mean this was not this was not a you're insulting the country in which I live, bad.
Yeah.
No, it was you're not doing any service in a literature. This is not a history class, right? You touch upon the themes,
Yeah.
for context. Why did this person write this in this time? Did these things have an impact?
Right.
But when you're doing this in reverse to basically choose literature to teach history,
Yeah.
that gets under my skin. Because I can also turn around and say,
But
like,
how's it not been that way ever? So literature's always been, well, like history in particular, in any form of discourse in public education is always a political discussion. Always
sure,
has
sure.
been.
Yeah, that's fine.
Always has been.
Yeah.
So, at what point in time does that not bleed over to a lit class? Especially with all the shit that we've been doing for the last 30 years, where it's like, oh, well, if you're working on this in this class, we have to have cross curriculars.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're, studying the Civil War and, our history class. Yeah, we're going to read, something that's from middle 19th century America that's not as offensive as Huck Finn, which you should read anyway.
Red Badge of Courage.
The Red
That's another
Badge of
thing.
Courage. There you go. Yeah, go read some Stephen Crane. It's less depressing. So, so didn't he shoot himself? Yeah, I think he did.
He's an American author. There's a pretty good chance. I mean, but
No, I okay. So I'm not trying to make light of your angst here.
well,
I guess
like
what I'm-
calling it angst, you sort of are. But yeah, it's
Well, I don't
totally
mean
understand.
that. Then
No, it's
what's the
okay.
word that I should use then? You're the lit guy. So
Well, it depends on what you mean.
I this makes you upset.
No,
And
not upset.
Oh,
Stick with concern.
okay. You are concerned. Okay.
Absolutely concerned.
Okay, so what is the solution to this problem? So, what would alleviate your concern? Let me put it that way.
Well, we're talking about pretty sweeping changes. So, I'd have to fire a lot of people.
Okay, who are you gonna start with?
Well, probably the president.
Joe Biden?
Yeah.
Okay. So who are you going to
His
replace him
staff.
with?
Huh?
Who are you going to replace him with?
Some kind of adding machine.
Okay.
You took. The problem here is when you ask me this question,
Robot.
is problem is when you ask me this question, what you're really doing is you're asking if there's some kind of realistic solution that I could put to this that would actually have results. I don't have one of those.
Oh.
The problem here with this is that it's going to be entirely based off of essentially local political needs, as has always been within public schools, where, again, this stupid discussion in Virginia where it's like, well, parents should have nothing to do with the curriculum. Bad move.
That was a turd. Yeah.
Bad move.
Terrible.
Really bad move.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a push in certain communities remembering things like that, saying, all right, we're going to take our approach on this. So it's going to be a local thing. And they're always, look, I remember there were hubbubs and to-dos even when I was younger about like, wow, I can't believe you're reading this. I can't, oh yeah. This is controversial, right? Whereas for me, it's the insult is you're reading a bad book and you're doing it you are depriving people of what should be valuable lit time, because I'm gonna break it down to you.
You don't get a lot of it.
Well, no, and I'm gonna tell you, Ralph Ellison wrote all of one book. This.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not saying it's crap, but it's not amazing.
Sure.
Okay. It's decent.
Yeah.
Okay. But what I can tell you is I can draw you lines right now and say, all right, well, here's Hemingway. Okay. And here are the direct lines that I can show you to the influence of authors and movements afterwards. Whereas Ellison was one book. One book.
Yeah.
You guys did, if you're going to cover this, you read Toni Morrison, who's a far superior writer, right? You didn't even pick the really good book, right?
Yeah.
Bluest Eye kicks the butt out of Beloved, but, it's like, to do this twice and to take so long of this and to deprive people in an honors class of...
Yeah.
I mean... That's where my grumble, my hackles got raised. Like, fuck you guys. This politicization, nonsense. Which
It's
one
not
of you
new, though, man.
It's like whichever one of you so-called progressive do-gooders, because you still had choice over this, decided to stick with this and say, well, I'm going to stick with this is what I believe in. Man, fuck you.
You see it as a do-gooder? I mean, I can see it as a teacher. It's like, well, I got to teach the least offensive thing because I don't want to fight off parents for the next 6 weeks.
But that's an offensive book.
What?
The actual subject material in there is offensive.
But what do you mean? Like, is it offensive? Like how is it offensive? Is it offensive in a way that actually demonstrates the victimhood of someone who deserves it?
No. The offensive material has to involve... I'm talking about the concept is not offensive. What happens in the book is offensive. This is material that you would not cover in a standard high school class because they're like, well, okay, we should not be talking about sex. We should not be talking about...
Yeah, but all that's okay now because the book services a larger purpose that is actually deemed as not offensive, right? Is that what you're trying to tell me? So what is it about the book that's actually offensive? Slavery?
No, this doesn't happen in slavery times.
All right.
This is a book.
I haven't read it.
No,
so
that's
you
fine.
gotta help me.
This is a book that there's the legacy of slavery.
Okay.
Right. So this is basically about a person who does not fit into what the predefined subcultures of blackness are.
Okay.
Okay. So what's offensive here is not the content in terms of the symbolism. That's fine, right? However, in a standard high school setting, you should not be dealing with particularly gruesome violence or sexual content, of which there is both.
Okay. All right.
Right? I'm not trying to be a prude here. I'm just trying. I'm telling you from a standpoint of parents would get pissed.
Yeah.
Okay. That was 100% a no-no back in the day.
But are those things included in the book to give it an edgier feel, or are they included in the book to kind of like just put a rougher edge on the point the book is trying to make about the legacy of slavery. Does
Well,
that make sense?
I get it, and so
Is that why that shit's in there?
you can argue it.
Okay.
The
So it's not patently clear then.
No, that's one of my biggest problems about, this book here is that a lot of it to me is a lot of shit that just happens. As a matter of fact, the most important part of the book is famously left undeclared about what exactly this means, right?
Okay.
And to that point, the speculation is nice, but a lot of this is just, okay, this happens. You can speculate on why this is, this, but taken on its own merits, you just wouldn't introduce that into a high school because you're not here to talk about. You are trying to minimize the amount of sexual content and violence that would appear.
Okay.
You would only talk about those things, even in a history class, you would talk about that only in very broad terms. This many people were killed in this battle. This many, but you wouldn't sit there and break out the gruesome details and say, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to show you photos of an actual Aztec sacrifice.
We're gonna watch what's that movie? So with fucking Mel Gibson made. What the fuck is that?
Oh,
movie?
Apocalypto.
Apocalypto, man.
Yeah.
I'm still traumatized from that movie.
Yeah, but
So I don't know. I mean, I guess I can see some context where you would do that. The question is how much do you need to shield the children, and what you really need them to get out of school and things like that. And I think what you were saying before, that's a collective local decision. I guess sometimes, although they've made the argument for years that almost all your history texts come out of Texas because they sell so many of the fucking books, something like that.
it's a fight between them and California. Yeah.
Okay. Well, sounds like somebody won the California section.
Yeah, but no, absolutely not, because there is no textbook that is going to contain that story.
Oh, so somebody's just cherry picking these books and assigning them.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
So what is this? Does this speak to a larger trend in education, or is this just you have what's the because I have a problem with your argument here, and my problem is academic freedom. So it's if I want to get up there and teach the shittiest stats book that I can get my hands on, I'm allowed to do that.
Sure are.
Okay. Should I not be allowed to do that in high school? Is that your argument?
You should be allowed.
Okay.
But you and your district should basically have the discretion to say that is not what we're here for.
Okay.
All right.
So who overrules who in that case? The district would overrule the teacher.
Technically speaking, yes, but
Is that the way you would prefer it? Let me put it that way.
well, it should be a very simple guideline.
Okay.
We're not here to embrace a political paradigm. And if it feels like you are, stop.
Yeah.
Stop. As a matter of fact, don't lean into it. Don't encourage it.
Right.
As a matter of fact, you should be, look, we leave you to your decisions, all right, but just the decision we want you to make is, if it feels like this is leading to a heavy-handed political point, don't do it. Because
So why do
if
people
we have
lean
to,
into that?
huh?
Why? So as an educator, why do people lean into that? Why do they take that political stance on things? Because I work in a goddamn college, and I don't see it amongst my colleagues. To be fair, I teach in a notoriously secular discipline.
I got it. Whereas, but then again, you also know that
Oh, you know what? Actually, yeah. When I was teaching education college, yeah, you did see quite a bit of that.
there is that, but also there are also, just because it's not happening here doesn't mean that aren't colleges where you wouldn't expect to see that all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't have this fear of politics.
I'm not afraid of it. I just hate it.
Yeah, okay. So, but hating politics is engaging in politics is how you actually come to agreements on things. Okay? So
Not with minors.
Okay, all right. The legit argument. I got you on that one. That's why I don't teach high school. I can't do it, man. So I can't keep my fucking mouth shut. So,
No, okay. So I guess no, I understand that. Let me put it to you this way, right? We have discussed this many times, typically with dumbass, Jets or Giants fans, where it's like, why do you like the Giants? Because my dad did.
yeah.
Now, granted, we usually give that person a stupid voice, and this is a metaphor.
Right. Yeah.
This is an extended.
With dad.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's an extended metaphor for people who do not question things. It's just always been that way, right?
Sure.
So, if it's hard enough to separate people from their politics from their parents, right? You as an educator, especially with younger students, taking a role, especially where you can be seeing these kids more than your parents, right?
Oh yeah. Clearly.
You're very quickly influencing, you are a point of potential influence of political views and ideas that you have no fucking business trying to instill in children whatsoever.
Yeah. I get your point. I just like running across a few politically motivated teachers that I had growing up. They actually served as kind of like a source of inspiration. So it's like, oh, that's a really unique perspective. I guess I just never bought it, hook, line, and sinker. So what they had to say about things. But I mean, the fact that they were doing it didn't really. I mean, we kind of like knew.
Well,
Is that the difference between today and then?
here's the thing:
Yeah.
is I had plenty of politically guided teachers. However, number one, they kept it out of the curriculum. Okay. Number two,
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, actually,
they
did.
kept it the fuck out of the curriculum. And number two, when they were going to go on a tirade, and oftentimes they did, it was usually presented for comedy. Or
Yeah, you're right.
it absolutely
Yeah.
was.
I'm thinking of one in particular. Yeah.
Or B, it was so tongue in cheek where you're doing this for the purpose of like intentionally letting you know that I'm going too far. It's almost like you're satirizing yourself, right? So, however, when you just break this down and say, okay, well, we're going to go into this with the assumption of, say, white fragility exists. We're going to go into this with the assumption that white privilege exists. No, these are political concepts with no actual real evidence to go out there and say, like, okay, well, how do you measure it? How do you measure it? You say, okay, well, these numbers, like these numbers prove this. Your assumption is that this equates to privilege. Okay, what you're not doing is you're not measuring group to group, right? You know the statistics. You know
I
that
know the statistics very well.
you know that basically poor white people get into the same kind of trouble that any old poor minorities do with some degree of variance, but generally speaking, it's the same, right? But
It depends on where they live.
yes, of course. But that's the thing is part of this politicization process is saying that these things exist. It's not we're going to talk about this. We're not going to say make up your mind. I'm going to present you evidence. It's just these are the legacy features of slavery. Why the fuck are you writing about this? You should be writing about the goddamn literature.
Yeah. Stay on topic, huh? Yeah.
Because the themes in these books, right? Because a lot of times they're being asked to, look, kids struggle with theme. Okay? It's so poorly explained in school that it's very hard. And because a lot of teachers don't want to go in there and say, like, well, you're way off base, right? Generally speaking, the rule, I mean, for me has always been, can you defend it? Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
But for me to go out there and say, like, okay, the theme of this book has to relate specifically to the black experience.
Sure.
You can't go in there with a general theme, or more universal
So they assign
theme.
you a theme.
Well, you're supposed to find it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
This is what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. Whereas, generally speaking, if you're going to take Old Man in the Sea or something, you're looking at a more universal theme. It's,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I mean, so that's like, that's a general thing with teaching, though, that's changed a lot.
Sure.
And so many
Sure.
teachers are guilty of that. They've got, like the classic waiter tray that's got the lid on it. Okay?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
yeah. So and they're
The,
like
the room
the
service.
room service
Yeah.
lid on that silver tray kind of thing. And then, like, oh, what's the theme, Johnny? Ta-da, that's the theme. Oh, you didn't get it right. It was ham and eggs all along. So is that what's going on there? So, because I have seen, there is a tendency in education, even at the college level, to do that. It was like, I want you to come to this conclusion. All right? I don't want you to figure out your own conclusion. I want you to come to this conclusion. Okay? Because I figured this out. It's what I'm going to grade you on. It's right.
Well, to some extent, you have to. And I'm going to say this. In literature, you have to. Because, all right, Patrick, what is... Because, and this is part of the problem, is that we assign that there is the theme to a book.
Sure.
Right? So, Patrick, what's the difference of a theme in Lord of the Rings versus the theme in Lord of the Rings?
I couldn't even tell you, man. Theme is something I struggle with, too. So...
Okay, well, all right.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you. So,
Okay.
I mean, for me, it's a cool journey. Yeah.
Okay.
I've heard many people talk. It's like about redemption. It's about the horrors of war. All kinds of different. It's about the death of civilization. I've heard 10 different things, and I don't know. So I just like the books.
Okay, now, see, you're kind of talking about the difficult part here. Is, number one, all those things you described, they are a theme of the book.
Correct.
Okay? And also, the difficult thing is I'm also describing this as a series. Okay? This is also not just one book with a... If you were to condense it down, if I were to ask you to give me the elevator pitch for Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
the 2-sentence version, what is it the story of?
One man's fantasy vision of the world and its history. Period.
That's a lot of things, but that is not an elevator pitch.
Okay. Well,
You have to tell me.
that's all I want.
You got it. I'm not asking what you want. What I'm asking,
Dude, I
is,
don't know how I could pitch that book.
No.
I don't know how
no.
I could do it.
What I want you to do is give me like maybe 2 to 3 sentences about what is the story about.
The story's about a war. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
So there's a war, but there's a very important piece. It's called The Lord of the Rings, right?
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So going back to the title, knowing that this ring is a very important part of it,
Uh-huh.
right? We do have a main character in the story, right?
Sure. You got several. Yeah.
No, but there's one very crucial character
Frodo.
who's given a very crucial responsibility, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So the war is around him, but he is the
He's the
main
central
character.
thing.
Right. Right.
Okay.
So if you want to incorporate that war in your answer, that's fine. But it's more so about the journey of this character who struggles with this burden to do this.
Okay.
That's the short version of the you give me the other really interesting, cool, more fun parts than actually the main story of the books.
Right.
But when it comes down to it, your theme should have to do with that central point, right? And so what is the theme about Frodo's journey? What is it that the author wants you to take away from what Frodo went through so that in your own way, how would his experiences be something that sticks with you afterwards, something that you learn, something that you keep with you?
I think it'd just be the sacrifice. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Even if to the point, and this is where you could have that argument, because of the end of where he has to take the journey to the Undying Lands
The Undying Lands.
and how the wounds don't heal.
no.
Okay. See, that's where you can have an interpretative part of the theme of the book,
Okay.
because that has to deal with the central idea of it.
So that is capital V theme.
An argumentative part. If you were to tell me that the theme was just war,
Yeah.
that would be too vague. It's there. It's a theme.
Well, I would flesh that out a little bit more. I mean, the Frodo piece is kind of like the European theater of the World War II kind of thing. I don't know.
Okay. But
So you can make an argument that it's a critical element Okay, but the question is, sans Frodo, does the war still happen? The answer is yes. So
Right, but sans Frodo, does the book happen?
probably not.
The answer is no.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Well, the guy's dead. We'd have to ask him.
well,
He wouldn't write it
okay,
that
well,
way.
then the book is like, well, it's called The Lord of the Rings. It's like, who is that? Well, it's that guy.
Is that guy? Yeah,
He won.
he won.
He is the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Singular. Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's the thing. Is if you tell me that the theme is something that is away from the central, plot line, the main journey that the character is going on, right? Where you could say that a theme of, like a side thing would be like redemption, right?
Yeah, sure.
Like using the example of what the fucking Under the Hill ghosts or whatever, stuff like that. Obligations, things like
Okay,
this.
so it can have a theme and the theme.
Correct.
So, all right, so
Correct.
bring that back to where you were on that
Okay.
one, because I'm kind of curious where you're taking this.
Well, the problem here is with Morrison's work, with Ellison's work, okay, to get to the capital D theme, okay, there is no way to dive into this without the theme being related to the impacts of racism and slavery.
Okay.
Okay? Now, that's what I'm saying here is this is where you have taken books that cannot be exorcised from political speech. Whereas you can take An Old Man and the Sea or something like that, and you can say there's nothing political because the central theme has nothing to do with political bullshit.
So the bottom line is no political bullshit in schools. So
You gotta have a.
So tell me, okay, I think I get it, but like, why is that a problem? Fundamentally,
Because it is not your place as a public educator, okay, to influence your students in a political way without giving a full disclaimer of, well, I'm this,
okay,
and I'm a butthole, and I'm going to treat it like a butthole.
right, yeah.
Okay?
Okay,
And that's fine. But if you go out there and just present it, again, if you waste this much of the semester on political bullshit.
yeah. See, but how much of an effect does it actually have? I mean, I see the kids after you're done with them. They fucking hate this shit. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to read about it. They don't even want to take a class that's anything remotely related to it. Unless they're way fucking into it, and then they marginalize themselves by going into ethnic studies or becoming a sociologist or something.
The problem here is that the problem is that particular argument, which I agree with to some point, okay? The problem is it diminishes the role of what you're there to do.
As a teacher.
Right. Basically, It's saying, like, well, they're not paying attention anyway, is a cop-out of saying, like, well, then you have no responsibilities in the classroom to maintain.
Yeah, no, that's fair criticism.
So I have to take this on the example of even if 1% is impacted, 1% is too much because it shouldn't happen.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, if you only guess 1% of the Jews, it's still a problem.
Yeah, that's the Jews. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know though, man. I mean, like, see, the thing that I do struggle with this on a certain risk is that piece about academic freedom. It's like, well, if I want to be a political asshole in school, then fine. If you don't like what I'm doing, fucking fire me. Okay? So, and then you have a school board or a principal that doesn't do that. All right? And in a lit job, that is like, I mean, you know the high school scene. So history and lit jobs are a bitch to get your hands on.
They sure are.
Yeah. So that's because there's tons of college grads out there who have, like, it's like, oh, I want to be a history teacher. It's like, well, how many types of football do you coach?
So yeah, that's a good point.
Zero. So, oh wait, you just like German Panzer shells? Yeah, this is gonna be a problem.
It is. I mean, there's the part. All right, well, you need to be able to teach our guys how to throw a curveball.
Yeah. And so, like, all right, so the political bullshit, is it really on the shoulders of the educator at this point in time? So, I mean, I guess I can see a couple different guilty parties here. But ultimately, all right, like you were saying before, it's going to deal with local control. And local control is your fucking parents. And so you say, well, you shouldn't teach political bullshit because, your parents should be doing it. I think that's what a lot of parents are doing. So, they're just like, hey, this is a good school. They have, like great college, or pass through to college rates and stuff like that. So if you've got a fucking teacher in there who's teaching you that, CRT is a real thing, okay, just shut the fuck up and do your work because you need to get into Yale.
Okay.
And that's a parent thing, man.
That's okay. You touched on another difficult component of that, because the other piece of this is, you are taking words directly out of my mother's mouth. Okay, where this is
sorry.
No. That's fine, because let me put it to you this way: you do not question the teachers in Korea.
Yeah,
you do not debate them. So
no, I've had Chinese and Korean students. I'm very familiar. Yeah.
So when you're like, when you go to an Asian culture where the word compliance is tattooed on all of your underwear,
you're alone on your ass,
the inside of your fucking eyelids,
submit.
It's the fucking sunglasses and they live. Yeah, it's so
harmony.
All right, fuck it, yeah. I don't even know. How long have we been going? No, this is a great place to end. What time? How long have we been going?
I still got. We got to end it on a positive note because that was kind of a dour.
Well, okay.
Okay, so let me summarize your argument here real quick. And so let me tell you the pieces that I absolutely agree with you on. And so, should teachers be teaching shit that, where they're using like edgy violence and sex scenes and stuff like that to drive a political theme? Absolutely not. Come on. So, should a teacher actually have the right to teach books like that in some respects? Yeah, I think so. I mean, if it comes down to it, academic freedom is actually what separates the American school system from just about every other one in the world, with the exception of some Western European ones. Now, I know you like to shit on France, but France has an excellent education system because they absolutely fucking defend, academic freedom everywhere. So you might not see that at like the primary school level, but their college professors are not to be fucked with.
To my understanding, okay, that a lot of that is at the primary level, and
sure, I don't know anything about it. All I know is about the collegiate level. So in every major discipline out there's a French guy who will fucking manhandle you. Intellectually.
What I will also say is, you can see their different commitment from the ground up, because sure. Have you ever seen a French hot lunch?
No.
We're talking about when they get served at school.
Yeah.
Okay. We're talking about, yes, you need a fork and a spoon, and they're made of metal.
Yeah.
Right? And we are not talking about that pizza.
Right.
Okay. We are talking about actual like French culinary experience, okay. Right? And I'm talking about like diverse, real crudité classy type shit.
Okay.
Right?
Why is that important?
Well, because when you talk about like commitments to education and schooling and stuff like that, and you start looking at all the components of, all right, so we've got our students, we've got our teachers. What do the students need? Okay, students need nutrition. How much does that cost? Well, we can sign up with those Sodexo dipshits over here that,
Sodexo? What is that?
What is it? I'm trying to think of that company that has contracts with all the schools over there that provide that fucking grade U meat and all this other stuff, because they get it at severe like contracted discounts. And the school says, well, what's the cheapest? We have to go with the cheapest.
Yeah.
Right? So they're like, okay, well, no, we have to feed these people. So we are going to hire this chef, and they're going to be cooking for children. But this is what I'm talking about. It's a different degree of commitment to say every level of this has to be looked after.
See, I disagree with you on that one. I think Americans have a shocking level of commitment to education. The problem is that we triple down on everything. Okay?
Well, yeah.
Nothing ever gets cut from curriculum, ever, anytime.
No, I understand
So,
that.
it, like, there's like really good, reputable studies out there, like that go back like decades now, that say like if American educators would actually hold themselves to their own standards, you'd have to educate kids till they're like 24. So,
No, it's more than that.
okay,
It's grade 25.
grade 24. You're right. It's grade 24. And so there's a remarkable commitment to education. The problem with it is fundamentally there is like no consensus on what it actually takes to be a good student and what a good education actually looks like in this country. Okay, I see it all the time on my end. Okay, where it was like, oh well, you went to this high school, yeah, you got to take this math class, so and it's just one of those things where like, okay, so there's no like, and this is like, oh god, this is every fucking faculty meeting I've been to. So like the problems at the fucking high school,
Oh, yeah.
kind of thing,
yeah.
and it's like, okay, I get it. But like the commitment in education, so in the United States is completely different because like we're the first country to actually build an education system from the ground up. Okay. So we're the first country to actually have mandatory high school attendance and things like that. We invented basically the grade school for everybody. Okay. And so
That's true.
we invented all of it. All right. Shit did not come from England. All right, in England, you worked in the coal mines, or you went to junior college to
Right.
touch other boys. Sorry, that was offensive.
No, it's certainly not, especially when you get to the part where this is like a good student, bad student thing.
Right.
Boarding school.
Bingo. That's what it was. Yeah.
Your
So
best students, and you're
right.
I can't have you around this house
Can't
anymore.
have you around this house anymore, so you better go. Otherwise, you're going into the army. So we'll buy you.
12.
We'll buy you a commission, boy. So yeah. So we built this entire fucking system like from the ground up, and it's like the metaphor that I used to use in the education class that I taught was like, you got to look at American education system. So many people look at it as this crumbling tower. It's a fucking pyramid. Okay, so we built it 2,000 fucking years ago, and it still looks like a pyramid because it is a pyramid. Okay, and so if you sit there and if you knock a block out of it, it's still a goddamn pyramid. Okay, if you chop the top off of it, half of it's still a fucking pyramid. And so it's just the way that we built the system. We built it with the local control in mind. We built it. I mean, we didn't bomb all our schools into rubble during World War II.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. And so, I mean, like, really, when it comes down to it, when I hear tale, like what you're telling me, of like political bullshit working its way into the school, this isn't a bug, dude. This is a feature.
No, it is. It is.
So-
And you're talking about something where the theory behind this is that you have so much diversity in education styles and content and everything like that, that if you have one teacher that's being a total leftist Marxist douche,
Right.
then you should have enough teachers along the way where you come across a curmudgeonly conservative fuckwad who does everything except say have a swastika on his chest there.
Come on, man. He's probably an accounting prof.
That's possible. Well, no. Okay, that's. But you get my point. It's the theory. This is where my mother's part comes in. Is when you enter that classroom, their rule is the law. This was the same
Yeah.
thing. Look, I'm the son of two engineers. So
Yeah.
when I would come to my father with a math problem, he would sit down with me and break it down to, all right, well, let's find your link of stupid. We're going to work from there. Okay.
Link of
Yeah, because, like you talked about,
train got derailed here.
exactly, man. And this thing has just been wobbling like this forward.
Tore
It's
up
like,
3 miles of track behind you. Yeah.
it's like, well, son, you don't understand radians because you don't.
Right,
it's
yeah.
like we have to walk you. What's 4 times 4, son? Right. So but when it came down to it, was he would then break out one of the many ways that he knew to do math. But the question was, but how does your teacher want? Because that is what is law around here.
Yeah. And see, I respect that. I really do, because, and you were just hitting kind of like what I think actually is the greatest strength of the American education system, despite its numerous and like glaring deficiencies. It is a pyramid. If you stand next to the pyramid, it looks like shit.
Well,
But if you get 50 miles away
Yeah.
from it, it's like, oh, that thing's fucking cool. It's huge, you know? But like the diversity in teaching out there is, I think, the greatest asset in the entire system. Okay? And so going to an Asian style system where this is the test and you're all gonna it's just gonna throw the suicide rate well, actually in this country it wouldn't do that. Everybody would fucking quit school. So, or they'd figure out how to YouTube it in 5 minutes, you know,
yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
So when I'm teaching my classes, I open the class, you know, almost every day. It's like, all right, so hey, we're back. We got to talk about this today. What's going to be? This is what we're going to do. But before they do that, who's got something to complain about in the school?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, it's who's got a class they want to complain about up to and including this one, you know, kind of thing. And, you know, it's always like, oh, well, Mr. Blah, blah, blah does yada, 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 and Dr. So-and-so does yada, 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 and oh, I hate this class, and why can't they do it like you, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, that's the great strength. So every now and then you're going to get a guy like me, and we click, and, you know, it's going to be great, all right, but you only get 1 or 2 classes out of me, all right? That's the rule, all right? So now you got to go suffer that guy's class, and whatever he says, that's fine. And I don't care if he wants to teach you some shitty ass book that you don't learn dick from. All right, you got to pay tuition just like everybody else and suffer through it.
Yeah.
And that's part of the American experience in education, man. And so, you know, like that's like it's something that I fought with. So it's probably the major reason why I didn't actually pursue a career in education.
Oh, to the administrative level.
Well, no, but actually teaching at that other college. Which I kind of had the opportunity to do, and I did it for a little while. But it was just hive mind. It was like, no, teachers need to do this, and they need to do it this way, and they need to do it this way every single time. And so, because the data says blah, blah, blah. And I was like, your data is bullshit. I could pencil whip it just as quick as you could.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Tell you what, why don't you tell me what this means?
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, like, I mean, I don't know. And I mean, you've been teaching for years, and you were very, very good at it. And so there's a particular like style that you bring to it that makes you unique from everybody else. All right.
But some people are going to hate.
And let them.
Well,
that's fine.
That's
fine.
Yeah. But all right. So I guess what I'm doing here is I'm pointing out a minor hypocrisy, which I obviously I should know better at this point. This is now quite possibly this is because this is intersecting with what I consider my field of expertise, or at one point did. So maybe that's a little bit.
You know better than anybody I know.
Well, I look, and I know that there are plenty of people where it's I have my not peers, I have my betters, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
it's like no, you can talk to these people, but you have to bow 25 feet away, and you have to hold the cake in front of you.
You have to knock your head 9 times on the floor.
You bring gifts to the house, man. That's just how this works, right? You know, they're going to serve you the crappy tea. But, you know, it's, I guess my big thing with this is I do have a very positive conclusion about this, and I think you would be the same way, is because of that diversity of style, okay? Mm-hmm. We are also somehow, and don't ask me how this happened. Look at that stretch.
Oh my God, your dog's ready to go outside, man.
We are the least cherry-picked data on the whole globe. And I would put the average American's intelligence against the actual average person across the globe and measure their intelligence. And I feel confident that, generally speaking, the American will win. Because you know how the data works. You know which students get tested. You know which people go on TV and they say, Can you locate Springfield on a map?
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't even know what state I'm in. Yeah. Look, having now worked with more television shit, you sit there and ask people until somebody gives you a stupid answer.
Yeah.
And most people are like, well, which one? There's a lot of Springfields.
Right.
There's more than one.
Yeah.
You'll run into people's like Portland, Oregon, or Portland, Maine.
Right.
What, are you trying to get me?
What are you trying to do?
You trying to make me look stupid?
Yeah. Are you filming?
Yeah. What is that?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I don't think, like, if you actually gave them, like a standardized test, like, whatever they fucking use in the schools now. So, all kinds of crazy shit. I don't think Americans would do very well on them. So, they probably do better than average. So, if you had a truly random sample of dudes across the planet. So, but they're not going to do well in math. I'll tell you that right off the bat.
They'll do average in
They'll
math.
do average, so they'll do fairly well in anything that's written. But like, all right, so I've been teaching college now. Let's see, it's almost 2022, so almost 12 years, and I've been doing it at the 4-year level at the same school for 7. This is almost my 8th year. Someone asked me that today, and I had to count up
That's insane.
in Blackboard to look at my old classes.
I thought you were going to say, like, man, I had to go to the second hand.
I have had hundreds and hundreds of foreign students now, and almost all of them were at the graduate level. All right, so these are the guys who've already done college in Germany or something, or fucking France. I've had guys from France, Australia, South Korea, all over the place, or they're international students where they're doing kind of a little bit.
Oh,
of
yeah,
both.
yeah.
American students will kick the fuck out of any student out there if you actually give them some kind of creative problem solve. Every single fucking time. And I mean, like, by a wide margin. You give them, like, okay, so you give him a MacGyver problem. He's like, you're trapped in a trailer, it's on fire.
Yep.
So you got a pencil, a roll of duct tape, and a cell phone battery.
Yeah.
You're gonna be like, oh, I got this. Your German student's gonna be like, oh, who do I call? So, I hate to
Would
say
not be an issue for the police.
yeah, exactly. So, well, no, they'll question why they're there in the first place.
Right.
Like, well, motherfucker, you're just here. How you got here is not my problem.
Right.
So, like, it'll be like, and then there's like other students out there too. Like, your Russian student will just give up. So, they'll say, well, is there anything to drink in here? Or, like, so, well, I'm going to write a goodbye note to my wife with a pencil.
Right.
Kind of thing.
That's a very noble thing for you to do, I suppose.
It's great. Yeah, I hope she finds it, but the American student will be like, oh, no, well, you just use this and tape that together and poke this thing right here, and you'll be out, and you can save 3 of your friends and get the trailer out, too. And so,
well, I can tell you that because my uncle had to do that once.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So,
He almost died.
yeah, so he was fine. So he made it home for dinner, kind of thing.
I tell you, man.
And that's one of the things that I have noticed. And so, like, I do see, like, a lot of flaws in the education system. And
Yeah.
I do think that there's an extra thick layer of bullshit going on right now. It's not an unheard of layer of bullshit,
No.
but it is
No.
fairly thick. All right. It'll thin out a little bit because really, when it comes down to it, American students are going to put up with that shit. So. We didn't put up with it when we were kids. So, I mean, think about it in some respects. Your dad would sit there and say, well, whatever your teacher wants is gold. And so you'd kind of figure that out, and then you'd say, well, do I really need to do this step? And the answer was no. And so, like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to do that step, in a math problem or something like that. And then, you're like, well, how long is this semester? Oh, okay, I'm done in 2 months. Yeah, I can suck this up for 2 months. But then, like, think about your time in college. You take a class from a professor who's like, by the time you're a junior at that point in time, you figure it out within a week before drop ad. You're just like, oh, this guy's going to be fucking trouble. I'm out of here. So,
Buddy, okay. I'm with you, but I mean, that was the problem was when these were in your major classes,
it does
there was
happen.
just no way around seeing
I'm
some of
very
the
familiar.
same fucking faces.
I'm very familiar.
We don't have to name names,
No.
but even ones that you're not thinking of, just God, it just did not gel with this person. But who else is teaching survey of,
Yeah. No, every now and then you do have to knuckle down, but I'm telling you that by the time you get to that point in time, you've done enough gymnastics within the entire education system that you're pretty fucking nimble,
Yeah.
So, and that's something that you don't get if you go to a school overseas.
That's kind of, I mean, they come here. And I think that's for a
In
reason.
droves, and they
Yeah.
don't want to leave either. And so for like anybody out there who's listening is like, oh my God, America's horrible. Yeah, go trade place with someone in France. They'll trade with you in a heartbeat. Or even a good country like Germany. Everybody's like, oh man, Germany's great. They got a social safety net and 8 weeks of goddamn vacation a year. I have not met a German student yet who didn't want to stay in the United States. Okay, they just can't do it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then you got like my mom's situation where it's like, oh yeah, well I was I was pursuing an English degree in Korea, which is really, it's just a different form of math.
It's math with weird figures. Here we go.
Math with weird figures.
Yeah,
All right, I'm going to write that
math
down.
with weird figures. Yeah. All right, I'm cashiered now.
Yeah, so
That was
am
a
I.
positive note.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took a little bit, but we made it.
Oh, we made it. Woo!
Hey, who are you?
I'm Pat.
I'm Jeffrey.
Yeah, let's hit the button.